Welcome to the Predictable Revenue Podcast, where sales leaders teach you what's working for them so you can build it yourself.
This episode of the Predictable Revenue Podcast is brought to you by our sales coaching and consulting services. Are you looking to create repeatable, scalable, and predictable revenue? We've helped thousands of companies grow their business with tailored expert advice backed by testing to ensure they establish the best practices that will work for them. Head over to bit.ly/predictable coaching to learn more.
Welcome back to the Predictable Revenue Podcast. I'm your host, Colin Stewart. Today, I'm joined by Saravana Kumar. He's the founder and CEO over at kovai.co. We're going to talk about where his first customers came from, where his first 100 customers came from, first 500 customers, and he's got a really interesting growth story on a new product that they've launched that we're going to talk about that was totally different from all the other ones. If you're a startup and you're thinking, this is interesting, or if you're a salesperson at a startup that is trying to nail their first customers, this is going to be the episode to listen to, especially because, and we'll get to it later in the show, so feel free to skip ahead if this is all you're here for. He was able to close big names like Shell, Boeing, and IKEA as some of his very first customers. So we're going to get into how he did that and why we think that happened. Welcome to the show, Saravana. I'm super excited to have you on.
Thank you very much, Colin, for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here. So I think I'm well aware of the predictable revenue and the guys, the work what you guys have done. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, let's crack on here.
Love it. I always like to start with where the idea came from, because so much of the go-to-market motion is built off of product market fit, positioning in the market, and your power, any of the powers that you have or the differentiators you have against your competition. And so I'm curious, where did you come up with, or where did the idea for BizTalk 360 come from? And for those that I didn't really introduce this well, kovai.co is the parent company, and there are 5 or 6 products. And BizTalk 360 was the first one.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just give a bit of intro. Like Kovai, as I said, kovai.co is the umbrella company under which we got four products. It's precisely 4 products. BizTalk 360 was the original one. In fact, we had only one product for the first 6 years of the company. The company was started back in 2011, so it's slightly over 12 years now. So we're pretty old and not a young startup anymore. Like it's 12 years old. So going back to where this idea came from, BizTalk 360, I think first I need to tell people what is BizTalk 360. It's a very, very niche product. Probably, a lot of people won't even know what is the background and what problem we are trying to solve. It's something very niche in enterprise area. You can imagine something like a security product kind of thing. So very niche, very specific audience. So I come from a technical background, so completely throughout my career, like a hardcore technical guy. Over 25 years, I've been in a technology space, and pretty much everything, all my technology background is on the Microsoft ecosystem. Right from my first job, even today, all our products are running on Microsoft stack, and we never looked anything outside. So Microsoft got this product called BizTalk Server. It's called a middleware product. It's a very popular term in a large enterprise space. For people who are all the young kids, you can think of like Zapier. So Zapier and Make.com and all those things are stripped down version of what BizTalk Server is supposed to do. It's a massive product. If you look at any large organizations, right, you'll connect SAP system to Oracle and Salesforce and PeopleSoft and JD Edwards and all this large, massive enterprise products. When they want to talk to each other, you need a middleman, and that is the job of this Microsoft product called BizTalk Server. So I moved to London. You can tell I'm originally from India. I moved to UK back in 2000. And I just started working in this BizTalk server product. BizTalk, it's a nearly 25-year-old product, and I started working in this product since 2000. For the 10 years, I worked as a consultant. So I was working for companies like Microsoft themselves, Accenture, Fidelity Investments, and a bunch of small companies. So for 10 years, I was doing consulting work. And I just spotted a lot of gaps. Microsoft was not really filling all the real end user problems. What typical enterprises will see. Okay, they are very good on as a platform company, but when you look at it from a day-to-day side of things, they were leaving a lot of gaps. So over the 10 years period, I found myself building a lot of things again and again for various customers. Things like operations and monitoring and security and auditing and all those things. So the gaps, the Microsoft left those gaps. So this is when around 2010, I thought, okay, there is an opportunity. And also at that time, Microsoft focus was also shifted more towards the cloud and Azure. And so even they were paying even less attention on this BizTalk server. But if you look at that, due to the nature of the product, it's a very complex, important product for a lot of enterprises. There are a lot of customers with these pain points, and Microsoft is not solving that problem, and nobody else is also solving that problem. So luckily, I picked up that problem. I spent 1 year building the first V1 of the product myself, and that is how I ended up building BizTalk 360. So this is the origin story. I spent a year building it, and then from there. From there, I think we'll probably discuss. I don't want to go through one full stretch, but this is the origin story, like how I ended up building BizTalk 360.
Gotcha. So basically, you developed a fairly deep domain knowledge of Microsoft and all the suites and the suite of product, and you saw this gap in the kind of automation space. Am I right? I had a big aha moment there, because I feel like in 2003, I might have been using BizTalk 360 to sync a maximizer database with like a few different maximizer databases at the company. We had like a whole Microsoft stack, and then maximizer was the CRM that we were using at the time. Is that something it would have done? Would be like grab the SQL files or the
Yeah,
SQL
it's
databases and sync
possible.
them
It's
up?
possible. Probably you wouldn't have used BizTalk 360 because BizTalk
Okay.
360 is our product, and
Okay.
Microsoft
Okay. Okay.
BizTalk server. You might have used Microsoft BizTalk server to do that.
BizTalk server.
So
Right. Right.
we named the product because it gives a 360-degree view of BizTalk. So that is how we named it. There is another common question I get. How come, Microsoft didn't come after you for the copyrights? And, luckily it worked out. We work very closely with Microsoft, and also we are more of a complementing product rather than confusing or a competing product. So they never bothered. And also their focus moved more towards the cloud. So some lucky things worked out on our favor. Yeah.
I must be glad you called it BizTalk 360 and not 365, because five more numbers in that, and you might have had a real big problem.
Yeah, possible. Yeah. I think because the Office 365 is a big for they don't want to have any confusion there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're a bit lucky. Yeah.
And so you spent time as a consultant developing the broad knowledge base that you needed to kind of garner that insight into, okay, this is where the gap is. Where did the first 10 customers come from?
Okay. So I think so what happened was, like around 2003, 2004, like I was so passionate about the technology. It's generally technology and this BizTalk server. So 2003, 2004, I started my technical blog. So that time was very early stages of blogging. You get that blogger.com or Feedburner and all those very early days. So I started blogging. Those days, today people write blogging purely for this content marketing and marketing focus. That time, the intention for me was purely to convey my technical knowledge to a wider community. There's no behind the scene intention. So that started in 2004, and for 6 years I was writing blogging continuously. Every week I will publish something. So they are very deep technical articles. Even today, if anybody searches anything with BizTalk, I'm guarantee you will find for second or third link will be something what I have written, because I've written something like 800 articles about this BizTalk server. So if you combine this thing, like you're in a very niche market, niche area, and you're writing so heavily, like all the topics, whatever a end user will search for, I have covered it in my blogging. So that continued for until 2000. We continued forever, but that started back in 2004. So when I finished building the product, I think on the weekend I put a website together. And all I had to do was, just put a blog post saying, hey, this is what I've been working for last 1 year, and these are all the problem spaces. And then, I just published the blog and said, okay, yeah, there is a sign up page and there is a, trial download. It's not a SaaS product. It just, it's a typical you download, install kind of product. So this is a trial page, and you can just go give your email address and you can download, get it. And I think within that weekend, but just straight away, I got a few downloads straight away. That's today we talk about, build your audience before building the product, right? So I was doing it without any thoughts, it just happened naturally. So by the time I had like 15,000 readers for me that I used to use FeedBurner. I think it was acquired by Google, I believe. So that was giving stats, I had like 15,000 readers. And you can imagine, Microsoft themselves got only like 10,000 customers for this product. And I got 15,000 readers. That means I'm reaching the entire audience base, my target ICP audience, with every blog post I'm posting. And you don't need anything else. That's exactly what happened. I just posted it, and immediately, I got my first inquiry from Hong Kong, and they came and they said, hey, this is exactly what we're looking for. And also there are two factors here. One is the content marketing kind of thing. The other factor is influencer marketing, because people look at you like an influencer because you've been writing for 6 years, all hardcore stuff. And all of a sudden you're coming and telling, hey, I'm solving this problem with my product. So we both connected extremely well. And then, I closed the first customer within a week or something after launching the product. And it's a complete stranger. It's not like typically people go and sell it to your known friends and family or contacts, this and that. But for the first customer is a complete stranger. There's a big casino out of Hong Kong. And then they came. And then they said, okay, they signed up, and okay, there's all this typical story of I didn't have a price, I need to throw some random numbers and then sell it and all those kind of things. But that's how I got my first customer. And then the first 10 customers will be somewhat around the similar lines. A lot of people, the blogging was the blog became my communication medium between me and the audience, right? I don't have anything else. I didn't have a Google ads or nothing paid, nothing, what I do, I go build up something, because I was also continuously building as well. So I go build something and then immediately go put a blog post and, hey, I just added this couple of new features. And then that cycle continued for some time. That helped to get some initial customers. And then so one more important factor was around 2007, Microsoft got this program called MVP. It's not the MVP what we refer in the startup world. It's called the most valuable professional. So still Microsoft run that campaign. So what it means is Microsoft identifies influencers in the community for every single technology. They identify. There's a massive team in Microsoft who goes and identifies their influencers, and they keep it very tight. So for example, this BizTalk server had only 20 influencers, so 20 Microsoft MVPs worldwide, and I was one among them. So they awarded me this in 2007. So that opens up basically a good connection within Microsoft as well as other fellow MVPs. You can imagine, you are an influencer and 20 other influencers and you're covering the entire world, basically. That is what happened. And then those people who are they're still my good friends, they become very close, and they introduced me to, some of the bigger brands and bigger names where they are working or, where they're consulting. So I closed some of the, a couple of customers from Canada. I don't know whether you know, it's a Transalta. It's a big electric company, and then Interpipeline. So they all, it's a big. So they all came from those MVP circles. So they introduced me, and then because it's all validated. Like, okay, that person itself is heavily influential, and he is introducing me and say, this is the product we wanted to use, and then that helped. So those are all the initial momentums, was acquiring customers for this product. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so the temporary gap was created by Microsoft because they had this product and it worked really well, but it was missing a couple of core pieces. We don't need to get into the geeky technical details here. And so you developed your audience by writing these very technical, very helpful blog posts. And I'll call out to the audience that this was back in the 2000s, and blogging had a much different place in the world than it does today. There weren't as many people. There were a tiny fraction of the amount of people. And so anybody who was blogging, putting out really high quality content, was able to generate very, very high returns. I saw the exact same thing with John from Marketo. And that's exactly how they started, is he has been blogging on about the marketing automation space when he started Marketo. And then they got the exact same thing. And he admitted himself that if he was starting today, it wouldn't work nearly as well because there are so many more people that are blogging. It is amazing that your content is still ranking and still coming up for the BizTalk problems.
Yeah. That's
great. I want to transition into sort of where did your next 100 customers? So we kind of covered the beginning of the journey. The first 10 are always the most fun, right? They're like, hey, so how much is this? And you're like, I don't know. Let me get back to you. I know maybe you got a good answer queued up, but I remember I didn't have a good answer. That's how I started selling what we're doing today for $500 a month. And I'm thinking, oh, no wonder everybody said yes, because this is so cheap that I'm like dying here. As you kind of grew and matured the product a little bit, where did those next kind of 100 customers come from?
I think the next step, what happened was, as part of this MVP thing, or also out of my own interest, one of the other things what I've done during that time was going and speaking in a lot of user groups, because there's a way it says, today, people don't do that many in-person kind of technical use. It's a kind of a meetups kind of thing. So since I'm based out of London, that gave me a lot of flexibility. Like anywhere in Europe, if somebody is organizing a small user group related to this BizTalk server, I jump in and get an opportunity and go and speak. If there's an opportunity, I'll speak, or at least I will go and attend, because it's just a day trip for me to go everywhere. So I go there, and then, every time I go and come back, it's a very small audience. We are not talking about, today people spending a lot of time on big events and big booths and nothing of that sort. You just go there and then, you present, and at the end of those 3-4 hours, end-to-end meetup, you will come with, at least 6 or 7 really qualified leads. You would have had the conversation, and you would have explained the product, and they would have already known what you're doing. And then that slowly built up. That became, a kind of a channel where I got the next set of customers. The other thing what happened was the inbound interest. Okay, one type of inbound interest is end customers coming and buying the product. The other kind of inbound interest, what I started to get is there are a lot of consulting companies, right? The companies focusing on Microsoft ecosystem. They go and build solutions. Like if you look at, for example, even Accenture or like a TCS and Infosys, they are big players, but there are also small players. They go and implement solutions for customers. So whoever is working on this Microsoft space, they spotted what I'm doing and understand the product value for their end customers, and they started to approach me. They wanted to take this product to their customers. It's a classic partnership model, but I might have initiated conversation, but a lot of the interest came from inbound, and I built up those channels as well. Today, when we go to later stage, like 500 customers range, nearly 40% of our customers today comes from our partner channels, because we built partners all across the world, and like every country, and so they bring a lot of customers. But initial days, even that 100, 500, some of the customers came from that partner channel. So the next stage, I will say, speaking in user groups, and then getting those things, and then slowly building up the partner channels. And I think by the time, I can't remember exactly when I started that Google paid stuff, but I won't say, it's not that much. I don't say, it contributed. It's not like today where you throw a lot of money in paid channels and get a lot of leads and customers. So it's very minimal, but those are all the early things.
Right on. I'm curious to double click on the partners side of things, because I think for a large number of startups, especially today, partners can be a place you go to die, where you spend a whole bunch of time and effort signing a big partner and doing a big partnership deal, and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
And so what was different for you?
I think it happens today, some of our new products like Document 360, we are trying to build up the channel, but it's extremely hard. The main thing is, the partnership will only work where there is a mutual benefit to both the parties. If only one side is getting benefited, it will never work. But so in this case, as I said, that's where the keyword is very important. The partners were coming to you. I am not going towards the partners, right? So you built something where they find so much value, like they can pass on to their customers, or they might look cool in front of their customers, because they need to propose something like that to make the system working efficiently, and to make sure they increase their value. So that is the reason why it worked out well. And also it's a very niche market, the companies who are focusing on this BizTalk server, the consulting companies are also typically smaller size companies, maybe 30 to 50 employees kind of consulting companies. So we are able to build a very close relationship. But I think some of the partnerships failed. For example, we tried to partnership with the large consulting companies, like the Indian ones, like Wipro and Infosys and TCS. There we couldn't crack it, because it's so big, nobody takes ownership, and but in a small firms, exactly the founder or the key person, and then you're able to build up that relationship, and we're able to work closely. I think that is the reason of the successful partnership in this case. Yeah.
Gotcha. So number one was they were coming to you. Number two is that you were solving a problem for them. And were you making them more revenue, or were they reselling it to their clients, or how did that work?
I think we had a typical, the partnership commission model. They get a commission, but some cases actually they are not really worried about the commission, because their consulting engagements were much bigger scale. This 20% doesn't mean anything to them, but it strengthened their position, like they providing the right solution for their customers, so they get more business on their consulting side. This is where the partner should get real value out of the product. Otherwise, if you're relying only on the 20% or 30% margin, what you're giving, it's very minuscule in a lot of cases, because these guys are dealing with, maybe hundreds or even millions worth of consulting deals, and whatever commission you're giving, it may not be sufficient. But in both sides, some partners are happy, because we give a recurring for a long period of time, so they see it as a revenue stream. But it's a mixture of both. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most important piece, and the reason why they were coming to you is they're thinking it's not about the 20%. It's about I'm going to bring this product in. It's going to make my customer happier. It's going to get me more billable hours. It'll make the project that I'm on more successful. And so it was solving a pain, like a big red hair on fire pain for the partner.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So solving a big hair on fire problem. They were coming to you. It wasn't about the money. It was about about solving the problem, and really at the end of the day, making their customer more successful and padding their wallets with the big consulting dollars. I love that. As we transition from the first 100 to 500, you did something interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, okay, the first thing, okay, all these original channels were scaling nicely. Okay, the inbound, the blogging is still continuing, and there's more visibility. And then the partner channel was working, and then the user groups and meetups were also working. And that is where, like I thought, moving from that small user group kind of meetups, can we do something bigger? Because by the time we had an audience, and we are able to reach out, and there's nobody was talking about this at a bigger scale. So we started a conference focused on this Microsoft BizTalk server community. Like there's nobody was doing it. Even Microsoft, the challenge was Microsoft does a couple of big events once a year. It's called Ignite. That time it used to be called TechEd, and the PDC, Professional Developers Conference. Those two, they keep changing the names, but in principle they do two major events. One talking about the current technology, and one talking about the future technology. But the problem, what I've noticed with this Microsoft people in this BizTalk server, they don't get a chance to even present in their own conference, because Microsoft is a massive company. Has so many competing technologies and products inside, right? So of those 4 days conference, what they do, these people, the Microsoft BizTalk server people, will only get one slot or something like that. So they are not able to reach their own audience. So I kind of capitalized on that. Like I kind of built my conference dedicated only for this BizTalk server and Microsoft integration space.
Mhm.
And even today we do it. Every year it's in June. We already planned, and there's an event coming in June of 2024. All the work is going on. So Microsoft, this product group, they sent about 20 people from Redmond to London. So it's a massive commitment for them to, they spend 1 week here. They come and present. It's a 3 days conference. They come and present. So we started initially as a 1 day conference, and then we moved on to, I think, 2 days, and then 3 days now. So today it's a 3 days conference. 50% of speakers are from Microsoft, and 50% I bring it from the community and customers and those kind of things. It's a kind of a user conference, and it became one of the important conference for the entire community. So the moment I opened the booking, like I get bookings from all over the place. People travel all the way from Australia, New Zealand to London to attend this conference in person. Like it's expensive for them. If you put together all the travel and accommodation and everything, they're spending like 5-10K to come to this events. So that became like a big lever for us now, like in term both from a branding perspective and positioning yourself as an authoritative vendor in the space, and then having that relationship with Microsoft. And it's a big lead magnet for us to bring that 600 people to a single place, and then that becomes your lead for the following quarters to move on, to carry on moving that. So that is how I'll say the journey is a combination of all these channels, whatever we discussed, and then this conference is taken to this 500 customers mark. Yeah.
That's really interesting. One thing I want to bring up, and I kind of teased this in the beginning. Some of your first customers were Shell, Boeing, IKEA. When in the kind of three, first 10, first 100, first 500, where did those guys land?
I think Shell, I got a really interesting story. I think Shell was my less than, I think, third or fourth customer, Shell.
What?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting story. I built the product, and I was just going through, and one day I got an email from somebody from Shell saying, okay, we came across your product, and then I think one of the Microsoft guys recommended BizTalk 360 to Shell. So he was working as a consultant from Microsoft, helping Shell on this, and he recommended that. And I got an email from one of the top architect from Shell saying, okay, we came across your product and we wanted to discuss. And I went to their London office. That time, I was the only one in the company. So I was just building and then doing everything. I had no hope. I just thought, okay, it's a big company. Let me go and speak to them. And I went to their headquarters. And you can imagine, a big conference room. It's full of people with, multiple departments. And I'm on the center. And then, they started asking me, questions. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason they reached out to me was, they are facing all the problems. What I was telling you in the earlier, like all the security, blah, 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 all those problems. And they started a project. They initiated a project within Shell to go build it themselves. And they were actually negotiating with a couple of consulting companies, outsourced companies, to go build something like this. And I think the quote was in millions, basically, to build something for because Shell had like a massive Shell is true. Yeah, they are our customer even today. It's 10 years they're still using the product, so they're massive.
No way.
So they had they planned to build it, and they gave me like an Excel spreadsheet and asked me, okay, these are our requirements. You tell me how many you're covering in your product. And I was during the meeting and I just gone through it, and I said maybe 70% is already in the product. So what I've built in the last because it's exactly the same problems what every enterprise will face, and I built it. And then I said, okay, 70% I already have it. And then they said, okay, the remaining 30%, do you want to build it for us? And I said, okay. And out of the 30%, 20% is very generic. Okay, it's applicable for any customer, but the 10% is very, very Shell specific requirements. I said, okay, I don't want to spend my time on that Shell specific thing, but I'm happy to do that 20%. And they said they will even pay for it. They paid actually my next 3 months. They asked me to focus on that requirements. And I think they paid over 100K for me to just build it. And then and then they're happy, and they didn't want any royalty or anything, rights or anything. They just want the product, and it saved them millions, basically. And also time. The main thing is time. They would have taken them 2 years to build whatever. I did deliver everything in 3 months, and then what they want. And still even today, they use the product. Yeah. So
that is a great customer.
Yeah, that is Shell story. And the most of the things, due to the nature of the product as well, this BizTalk and BizTalk server, everything is used by large companies. You don't need, small companies, they don't use the product. So by nature, you're only going to deal with these kind of companies like Boeing and Airbus and pretty much every single Fortune 100 company, you name probably will be in our customer list, because that's the nature of the problem you're solving. And maybe 10 years of my experience understanding the domain, and then you build the product understanding the problem. That's I recently read this book from the Waze founder, Yuri, right? You fall in love with the problem, not the solution. It's a very good book. I recommend people reading it. It's exactly what happened. Basically, I fall in love with the problem. Why Microsoft is not solving this problem. And then, you solved exactly, it's a nail in the coffin, basically. You solved it. And then the others can't ignore you, basically.
Amazing. And the book is called Fall in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution, a handbook for entrepreneurs. Yeah. Amazing. I don't think I've got this one. I'll throw a link to the show notes for anybody who doesn't want to go and do the Googling that I just did. But anytime I hear a book recommendation, I'm always all over it. I did want to ask, so you found there's I think product market fit is like a temporary gap in market needs, right? You found something that there was a set of unmet needs. Yeah. But over the last 12 years, I imagine there have been other companies that have seen those same set of unmet needs. They're somewhat met because you're solving it, but they're going to say, hey, they're not going to solve it for everybody. We're going to come in and compete. I'm curious, as you grew as a company, like how did your position in the market change? Were you the first ones to do this, and you're still the only ones to do this, or what does the market look like?
Again, I'll say a bit of luck played on our side. So yeah, of course, typically what happens is, you go identify the problem, you start building it, and then within a few months or years, you'll have a bunch of competitors coming and doing exactly what you're doing. So in this case, what happened was, okay, there were a couple of small ones who came and disappeared. But in this case, there are various factors helped us. First, it's a complex problem to solve. It's not that, okay, I found a SaaS company it won't take me more than, like I can replicate exactly what they are doing, say Calendly, for example, right? Okay, I can. You don't need a rocket science to, okay, I can go build a Calendly replica if I know it's something technical. But in this case, you need a deep domain knowledge. There's 10 years. It's like building something in cybersecurity requires a good level of knowledge. The same thing happened here. You need to have a good domain knowledge for you to replicate what you're doing. That is one thing. The second thing, it's a niche market. Where only very few people can bet on the niche market. It worked out well for us because we didn't touch this. We are fully bootstrapped. Even today, it's a bootstrap company. We never took any funding. So it worked out well for us from that aspect. Maybe if you're a VC funded company, the market is not big enough. I mentioned Microsoft themselves got only 10,000 customers. The TAM is not big enough for somebody to go invest and come and take that bet. So that's the second factor. And the third factor, it's kind of a shrinking market. It is because Microsoft wants to kill this product and they wanted to move to the cloud. So people don't want to come in. So all these factors kind of worked out well for us because, like a $10 million business is a big business for a lot of people, right? People don't go there. They think it's a small market, but that's what we tapped in. Okay, that's good enough. And then that helped us now use that funding and then scaling other products what we have in the company. We call BizTalk 360 as an investor, like an internal investor from other products. Still there's a lot of money coming, and that money is pumped into other products like Document 360 and Churn 360 and other products.
Oh, that's super interesting. And I do want to transition the journey because the Document 360, this sounds like a totally different journey from where BizTalk came from.
Correct.
Yeah. Help me understand that.
Sure. I think the first 6 years of the company, like until 2016, 17, BizTalk 360 was the only product in the company. And then we had got one more product on Azure. But what happened was, these products are enterprise products, and we need to have like a really good knowledge base for a product. Because today, with all this AI and self-service knowledge base becomes so critical, because otherwise, your AI won't work, your underlying knowledge base is not good. And also the support cost is significant. People want more self-service options. And while looking at the solutions in the market, we found a big gap. Either there is a product, typically customers use something that comes out of a customer support product like Zendesk or Freshdesk or Intercom, which got a knowledge base module. Or the other end of the spectrum, you got a very complex space called component-based content management systems like Adobe FrameMaker and a bunch of other products. So once you've grown to a decent size where your product is matured enough and you wanted to have like a good knowledge base, the middle part was completely missing. nobody was solving that middle part. You might want things like a workflow management. You want to have a SEO management and imagine when 20 people writing a knowledge base for your product, that the tooling needs to be much more better than what the customer support product is. And that is the problem space we identified. And we did a company-wide hackathon. I just got this idea, and then I pulled the entire company engineering team. That time we were about 30 people. And then we did a 2 weeks hackathon, and we saw this working. And then we launched the product in Jan 2017 is when we launched it. And today, half of the company is actually Document 360. So over 130 people work on the product, over 1,500 customers. And we are powering a lot of the big names. Airtable, if you go to Airtable's knowledge base, it's running on Document 360. Midjourney, if you go to Midjourney, it's running on Document 360 G2. VMware, Samsung, Netflix, all these guys are basically running on a Document 360. So we accidentally found a problem, and then we scaled it nicely. Okay, coming to your original question. So whatever we discussed, whatever techniques we discussed with this GTM motion and acquisition, it didn't work for Document 360 because those are all we are talking with the enterprise customers and so here it's a more of a PLG motion, and it's a more like a product-led growth and a marketing-driven thing. We still invest a lot in a content, But here, the one thing we do completely different is we go heavy on the paid marketing here. So we spend a lot on Google Ads, and then typical LinkedIn and Quora and Captera and Facebook, and we do a lot of those experiments here. So it's completely different. We didn't do any of those big paid marketing stuff with BizTalk 360, but here we are going down deep in that on the paid route. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. And so this is specifically the product is, I'm looking at Midjourney's documents, like the documentation.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Okay. I got it. So I found the docs.midjourney.com if anybody wants to go and check it out.
Yeah, the thing is,
Interesting.
they hit like 50 million hits per month. So we provide that kind of a scale infrastructure for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, I love it. And it's strong. It's got to be strong SEO, for any company that's doing docs like that.
Yeah, actually, there is an interesting story with Midjourney, how we acquired them. So actually, what happened was they came inbound. We didn't even know, like they actually became our customer. And we have every month we have like our cloud cost reconciliation meeting. So every month we see our cloud cost and see whether it's in line with our growth every month.
Yeah.
And 1 month we noticed this one particular service called CDN, the Content Delivery Network charge. It's 30% more. It's a very unusually higher jump within a single month. And then we drill down and we figure out, okay, hey, to be honest, I didn't even know who Midjourney was. I didn't even know they do generative AI stuff for images, and this is all this the boom of this ChatGPT and OpenAI, and that's the boom. And then we found out this one customer is actually taking 30% of our bandwidth more there. And then we've drilled down, and now we have a special deal with them, commercial deal with them, but they just signed up for our $500 per month plan. And then only at the end of the month, we figured out, okay, actually, we acquired this customer.
You guys are costing us way more than $500 a month.
Exactly. And then they understood, and then they're happy because we are saving, because for them, providing a reliable platform is much more important because they, of course, got the money and they can pay for it. Yeah.
Amazing. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing the journey. If people are looking to get in touch with you, if they want to find out more about your story, if they're curious about Document 360, where's the best place for them to look?
I think if you're reaching out to me is fairly straightforward. You search my name and, you can find various LinkedIn or, company contact us. And there's even these days, emails will also show up. The company domain is called kovai.co, and the Document 360 is document360.com. So just a straightforward domain. Sorry, if you can search and find it. Yeah, I think if you're looking out for a good knowledge base today, knowledge base is becoming more and more important with the AI, and as I mentioned, AI and self-serve. So if you're interested, please take a look. Yeah.
I actually am interested, and you may see me sign up as a customer a little bit later, because we've got all of this documentation on sales development and how to do this, how to do that. We have a whole field guide of, field guide to be a successful SDR, how to survive your first 90 days. And it's a 70-page Google Doc that is okay in a Google Doc, but we wanted to publish on the website as, for SEO purposes.
Absolutely.
But man, it's hard to access and find and navigate all of that. So
that is one of our use case. People do. We can also do internal as well. You can have internal and expose only some of them public. You can have a mixed mode, and then what is it? Yeah, typical. A lot of companies use it to maintain their standard operating procedures. You can go that use case as well.
Huh. That's a really interesting idea, because I think we used to use Confluence for this a long, long time ago, and we ended up bailing on it because it was insanely expensive and it was clunky to use because it was built for engineers.
It's too complicated. Yeah, I think. Because Confluence is a 20-year-old product. They did. What typically happens is, when you reach that scale, when you have millions of users and your product is 20 years, it's very hard to, go kill and build something, right? So you need to keep patching. That's what happened with Confluence. So now we came up from the bottom, bit more modern, and we solve all these problems there.
I mean, perfect. I mean, you're one example of this happening to Atlassian. Come and you eat their lunch with Document 360. I mean, I think an even larger opportunity that they missed out on was HipChat. They had HipChat, which was I worked
Slack.
and fully integrated into all the things. I loved HipChat. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
$49 a month, and it did exactly the same thing as Slack did. And all of our engineers are like, no, no, we got to switch to Slack. You can use their API. I was like, I think HipChat has an API. You could self-host it. Like you do whatever you want, but Slack was the cool hotness. And so we went from paying $49 to 150 or 250, and now probably more.
More,
And like,
yeah.
I think they ended up selling HipChat to Slack at some point, but what a huge market opportunity they missed out on there.
Yeah, definitely, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the problem with Atlassian is, you know, when you have like 50 different products in the company, that is the
Yeah.
problem, you know, like, okay, for Slack, it's only one product. They're all in basically, you know, like,
Yeah.
but for Atlassian, HipChat was very, very minuscule product in the portfolio. So,
So I'm gonna wait till you've got 46 more products out there, and then I'm coming for BizTalk 360.
yeah, no,
The
I don't
1,000
think,
customers left on it.
yeah. No, I'm very cautious, you know, like I don't want to build more products now, you know, we are in a good, I feel we are in a good position now. Like, you know, like this 4 products are good enough for us to scale. Like, you know, okay, BizTalk 360 is kind of saturated in the sense, okay, it will remain like that for next 10 years. But
Mhm.
the other 3 products, you know, we got a good, I feel really happy in the position we are holding now. You know, now we are looking only at the scale, all the products here.
Awesome. Saravana, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a real pleasure to hear your story and get a chance to kind of share some ideas with you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Colin, for having me on the show. Really enjoyed the conversation. I hope
Yeah, me
it'll
too.
be useful for your audience here.
Amazing. I learned a bunch, so I'm hoping they get the same. So thank you again. And to everybody else listening, see y'all next week.
Thank you.